Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the woman or the drugs. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the woman or the drugs.
I sometimes wonder why every woman I've ever loved was completely insane. I met a woman named Tami who had two faces. Not to say that yours truly is any door prize. We're talking about an ex-junkie, retired crackhead, failed criminal, erstwhile porn scribe, former big money TV writing fuck-up, and offspring of a suicide by way of a professional electroshock victim. Call me a freak magnet. In the barroom light, amazingly, Tami did bear an alarming resemblance to young FF. It's just that at the wrong angle, she didn't look like Farrah at all. Sure, her mouth was Farrah's, maybe even her eyes, but everything around and in between was some kind of wasted landscape, a topography of scarred, pitted flesh which, when made up just so, could actually resemble Farrah, but only Farrah after an accident. Farrah after she'd gone through a plate glass window, fallen from a terrace, nosedived into a kidney-shaped pool from which all water had been drained.
Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the woman or the drugs. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the woman or the drugs.
Needless to say, I fell in love up to my earlobes. It was a wholesome time. By day, I labored in Larry Flintland, down Hustler Way. My job, for the most part, involved writing sight gags for vagina-shaped squash and rutabaga mailed in from the Dakotas, home, apparently, to a variety of genitally evocative vegetation, while Tami, God love her, danced topless on tabletops at a strip joint near LAX. Her patrons were middle management aerospace execs, family men who just want a little break from the meat and potatoes. By night, once she'd slapped on her Maybelline, I could forget my troubles and pretend for 1 or 2 gilded hours that I was the $6 million man. Beside my almost Farrah, I could almost believe that our garage-sized tract in the Hollywood Flats, that region which lies unglamorously at the sun-sucked bottom of the Chi-Chi Hollywood Hills, was really kind of a mini San Simeon. In the right light, at just the right angle, I could actually convince myself I'd hit the celeb sex jackpot and nailed down the American dream. That I had, in other words, rolled into Hollywood and rolled onto a Charlie's Angel.
Maybe it's not the woman or the drugs.
Truth is, maybe I wanted the shame. Maybe I needed to break through the barrier of my own self-loathing, sink into some whole other region where I was not just shit in my own mind, I was shit in front of the world, beyond even trying to put up a front like some ash-dappled sadhu stumbling through the streets of Calcutta. Slap me, berate me, pluck the fucking dollar bills out of my pockets and spit in my face, just as long as you give me drugs. I was, at this point, one of those people. The kind you see in the street and wonder, how did he get that way? What the fuck happened to him? But that's how it happens. One minute you're fine, fucked up but okay with it. The next, you're neck deep in a world you don't want to have anything to do with and don't want to leave, because that's where the drugs are. And that's how I ended up at the corner of Crack and 8-Ball. Me in this car full of paraphernalia, crack crumbs, empty balloons, and my two new friendly African-American perps, Sammy and Delmar. The first time we tried to drive and jive, my already crack-ravaged heart nearly slammed out of my chest. The young homeboy who leaned in my window slinging rocks looked like the cover boy for San Quentin magazine, Mexican Mafia issue. He had a head shaped like a small cannonball, shaved to the scalp, with a single tuft up front, soaked in Tres Flores. In my haste and idiocy, once I'd made the grab, I jammed the car in reverse and slammed into the crate behind me, an idling fruit truck, before peeling out and barely missing another cluster of entrepreneurs halfway up the block. There was yelling, frantic Spanish. I saw a doll head fly by the window. Then somebody fired something. Sammy said, "Sawed off," in a voice so casual he might have been reading from Newsweek. I'd never felt a rush like that. Never. Just pulling it off without dying. Hearing that booyah rattle the windshield and blast a trash can got me high as a weather balloon. I was dying to get fucked up again, but by the time we got 3 blocks away, I felt like I had a face full of piranhas. Paranoia gnawed my spine. I imagined gang signs flashing corner to corner from here to Tijuana, somehow spelling out white Jew with moles, ugly Cadillac, shoot to maim. You know, a lot of people accuse me in my writing of being too cynical, of being afraid to show my feelings, but I thought in this section, in this book, I'd step up. I wouldn't be afraid to show my emotions, to show the tender side. This little piece involves someone I really care about, a man I call Dad. My dad used to powder his balls on hot days. And one steamy morning, in the greater Pittsburgh YMCA, I saw him take off his shorts, place one foot in the locker room toilet seat, then daintily pinch his scrotum, which glowed scarlet, and hoist it up over his thigh to douse Desenex underneath. "Dad," I said, kind of horrified, "isn't that foot powder? You afraid of getting athlete's balls?" My father, as ever, just smiled his sad smile. "Well," he said, "you're old enough, so you might as well know." I must have been 7 or 8, and I was scared. I thought he was going National Geographic on me. I'd been freaked by an article on manhood rituals in Tanganyika. I had to stop reading at the phrase, "once the bark is inserted in the penile shaft." That was enough to keep me up nights for a month. Dad spoke with a gravity befitting the occasion. "There's things that go on under your gonads you don't even know about. You don't want to know, but you have to. You have to go right in there and take care of business. Sure, baby powder will make you feel good," he explained, making no secret of the contempt he had for mere feel-good solutions. "Baby powder will cool you off, but your antifungals?" Here he held up the yellow Desenex can, smiling at the product like a man in a TV commercial. "They can keep you cool and keep you defungied. The trick is, you gotta dust your undersack. A lot of guys don't know that and still get the chafe. You know what I'm talking about?" "Pretty much," I said, mostly because I wanted the conversation to be over. Men were starting to stare, but Dad was nothing if not deliberate. I wondered if his scrot hurt from the squeeze he was putting on it, using it for demonstration purposes. "I'm talking about jock rot," he went on patiently, dousing once under his right Roma tomato and twice under his left. "Let me demonstrate." I dropped my pants, and he inspected my still hairless orbs with an approving nod. "They hang small, but they itch big," he said. "Don't let anybody tell you otherwise." Here he handed me the can and, smiling proudly, bade me dust my own baby testicles. When I hesitated, Dad said, "I'm no pervert, son. This is hygiene," and deftly palmed my balls, almost like he was weighing them, just long enough to sprinkle Desenex in the crevice beneath. "Now give him a shake," he instructed. And when I did, doing a kind of gimpy shimmy to spread the dust around, he stifled a laugh and rubbed his hand on my head, like I'd made him proud, like we'd just gone fishing, and I'd caught the biggest trout in the pond. Looking back, Dad and I never really did too many father-son type things. Bonding-wise, this was as good as it got. Halfway down some unlikely side street, we saw two more marks, a pair of skinny hombres who could not have been more than 14, waving us down like a couple of long-lost friends. I pulled over and they rushed the car. Quanto, quanto? He had the rock out of his boxers and in my face before I'd even hit park. All of it, Sammy chimed up from the back. That's right, Gilmore seconded. We want all that motherfucking kibble. Just lay it out. My man here got the cake for all this shit. Sammy loomed so close I had to inhale the jail stench still on him, a fetid cocktail of cigarettes, B.O., and stale drawers. Skinny handed the stuff over, and this time I hit the gas without even pocketing the rocks. He was still doling the shit out when I floored it and the stuff spilled in my lap. The kid's wrist cracked off the window frame. His homeboy expected the move. We hadn't made 3 feet when the crash caught me cold. The rear windshield shattered in a spray of diamonds. A brick clunked into the front seat, but I was still thinking shotgun and tore forward blind, head down. My only thought that now I had a caddy full of loose crack and a dead black dude in the back seat. Yo, we done game there, tortilla ass. Adios, burritos. I had the rig in my boot and a chunk of tar I'd been carrying around. I could never bring myself to shoot the stuff in a motel. I wanted it on just in case. Somehow, after we finished our narcotic repast, I found myself back in traffic. It was rush hour. That happens on crack. You go in, you go out, you come to, and the entire time you may have been parked on a couch or aiming your car down Wilshire Boulevard at 5 in the afternoon, which is where my own frayed little magic carpet dropped me off. My eyes just seemed to fly open, at which point the pipe popped onto my lap and the sizzling rod fell onto my crotch, instantly burning through my foul pants, down to the skin of my dick. I scooped up the white boulder, screaming, then jammed it in the pipe, rammed it in my mouth, and slammed into the back of the RTD bus in front of me at the same time. Shit! My head hit the wheel, hard. I banged a gash in my forehead and had to check the rear view to wipe the blood out of my eyes, but I could not stop long. While my passengers hooted, this was high comedy to them. I swung through the lane to my left, cut down the nearest alley, nearly smashing a grape-colored Mazda, and got away without slowing to look back. How could I? It was 5-something in the afternoon. I had a pipe in my mouth, a syringe in my shirt, crack chips and dope crumbs stuffed in my pockets, lumping my socks, no doubt all over the floor of the car. It was beyond helpless. The problem was, in the accident, my front end had been fully accordioned and my car could barely stagger forward. Black smoke poured from under the hood. It was Bhopal on wheels, and I was steering. Sammy howled directions back to the Travelodge. The 3 of us ducked inside after stashing the car around back behind a mysteriously abandoned semi. I don't think I killed anybody, but for all I know, some triple amputee tipped out of his handicap seat and flopped like a hooked trout until he died, all because yours truly fucked up and hit the gas and bailed. Dagmar and I first laid eyes on each other at a screening of Night Dreams, the watershed stretch of sex celluloid that marked my first full-length foray into X-land. Night Dreams, see, snagged major notoriety by breaking the all-important hot cereal barrier, marking the first time in smut-fest history a life-size cream of wheat box was used in on-screen coitus. The curious thing about pornography, for those in the grim biz of cranking it out, is its singular lack of stimulating ambience. So that the experience of sitting there, watching miscellaneous humping humans earn their daily rate, aping orgasm, ranks on the arousal meter somewhere between folding laundry and Meet the Press. There's no real way to describe that sensation of standing around, chomping day-old donuts and slurping bad Java, chatting about the merits of retreads versus new tires, while 10 feet away, some slinky lovely is on hands and knees getting rear-ended by a physical specimen whose defining attribute is a penis robust enough to double as Mickey Rooney's prosthetic limb, should he ever need one. "Okay, ready for mayo," barks the director, and by the time Mr. Footlong works up a squirt, the whole crew's so bored they're staging cockroach races behind the set. All of which is to say, I don't think it was erotic fallout from watching Night Dreams that moved Dagmar to sidle on up to me. For whatever reason, this lanky, ruby-lipped Teutonic artiste and I ended up slouching arm in arm down Hollywood Boulevard at the ungodly hour of 10 in the morning. Even at that time of day, the sunlight is so harsh it drives any sane citizen to take shelter. Only in Los Angeles does the light have that dread-soaked, accusing quality, as if the sun itself were screaming at you. What the fuck are you doing out in the street? What is wrong with your life? The skeeks were just starting to stir on the boulevard, runaways mostly, Midwest Tims and Tammys skanked out in Tommy's coffee shop at the corner of Wilcox, plotting their blow you for a 20 and some crank way through the eye-achingly bright maze of the day before them. Dagmar and I ducked into the Frolic Room, one of those morning-friendly bars along this stretch of the boulevard, the kind of place the tourists don't even see and the locals need to hide in. The only time I like bars is early in the morning, places that open at 6 to take care of that wake-up Boilermaker crowd. They reassure me. It's that warm, fuzzy knowledge that scattered abroad this noxious landscape, there lurk legions of others who just can't make it through the day without some form of toxic, soul-killing refreshment. The only difference between dope and alcohol is that the booze makes you look worse. The sauce turns you red and the needle turns you green. One turns you into a nightmare, one turns you into a nightmarish joke. Dope at least preserves you.
Two naked people standing on their heads, 10 in the morning.
Dagmar and I uncoiled ourselves and crawled into bed in opiated silence. We were both too gone on that intestinal lowball to do much more than grunt and sigh. In a frenzied slow motion, lips and fingers, tongues and limbs, a single dripping blur, she guided me inside her with her calloused palms, writhing wide-eyed beneath me until, in a patois she adapted again and again at the giant moment, she rolled her eyes and wailed at the faraway fatherland. 999, and then, even louder, "Oi God, I'm being fucked by a Jew." Tanya, daughter of a 60s sitcom baron and his Chilean au pair. The combo left her a green-eyed mocha showstopper with a burned-up trust fund and a Medusa's head of auburn dreads. Her own touch were those B&O tracks running north from her dainty wrist to the crook of her banana-black arms. Tanya and I bonded hard during my 20 minutes of post-hospital clean time, after which, for better or worse, my entree into the real L.A., the inner L.A., or one particularly cheesy version of it, kicked in like a bang of adrenaline. A SoCal archetype in her own right, young Tanya left her home in the hills at 16 to make her way in the world, which, this being Hollywood and all, meant she ended up doing freelance dominatrix work for a studio called Madame D's, a discreet and well-appointed hideaway catering to high-profile pain devotees. Beyond the usual spankings and verbal abuse gigs, not to mention the odd electric cattle prod to the testicles, a house specialty, my gal's forte was the Roman candle, an arcane practice which involves slipping a match in some whoopee boy's penis and lighting it. Thanks to the monstro powers of concentration unleashed by that IV crank, my gal could slide that flamer straight in a pee hole faster than you could say, "Hug my hibachi." This made her a real dream date for clients who wanted the worldly thrill of having their dicks spit flame as they were led around on a leash and bade to light the mock Liberace candelabras that lent the dungeon that obligatory gothic ambiance. Until, that is, they shot their wad, put the match out, then towed off and hopped in the Jag back to Malibu to kiss the missus and tuck in the kids. At least half a decade's passed since most of the unwholesome madness described above. And I suspect, maybe it's not the city. Maybe it's not the woman or the drugs. Maybe, call me a freak magnet. It's just me. Just pulling it off without dying. That booyah, trash can, gawking eyes and weather balloon. I was dying to get fucked up. By the time we got 3 blocks away, I felt like I had a face full of piranhas. Here's when I got lucky. Here's when I got lucky.
Discolored Coupe de Ville. I Ugly
Here's
Cadillac.
when I got lucky. Here's when I got lucky.
Discolored Coupe de Ville. Ugly Cadillac.
Here's when I got lucky. Here's when I got lucky.
Discolored Coupe de Ville.
After 3 days and nights holed up in the motel, I decided I'd had it. I'd been up 72 hours. It was time to go, so I snuck out of the room. The Korean manager, I'm sure, was less than thrilled to accept a check from some pie-eyed bobo bleeding from the eyebrows, but I slipped him a 20 along with the bad paper, and he chilled out. He confided with a 5-tooth smile, just filling in. Here's when I got lucky. What happened, see, is that the caddy wouldn't start. I turned the key, jimmied the ignition, opened the hood, waved my palm over the engine and spun around 3 times. Nothing. And so, as if I were still civilized, a citizen of the world, I pulled up my AAA card, summoned a tow truck, rode bitch with the driver back to Hollywood, dumped the car in a boarded up Exxon station before proceeding on foot to the apartment I'd sort of forgotten I had.
Discolored Coupe de Ville.
The next morning, when I staggered back to Shea Exxon, the land yacht was gone. Some poor fuck had actually stolen the thing. In a sudden fit of legitimacy, I reported the theft to both the LAPD and my insurance company, and to my infinite delight, LA's finest called back before the day was out to say they'd found the car. But, and here the lady dispatcher's voice lowered with real grief, heartfelt empathy at what our society had come to, but whoever'd made off with my pride and joy had banged it up pretty bad. What's worse, she continued darkly, dope and paraphernalia were found all over the car. The thieves must have been drug addicts. It's a shame what's happening to the city, she offered. They said it must have been a real pretty car. I said it was and thanked her. Then, heart pounding in a frisson of guilt and glee, I called back Allstate and asked them to put a rush on the check. They'd seen the police photos and declared the caddy a total loss. The blue book came to $5,200. The whole episode had left me pretty shaky, but I learned my lesson. No more crack. That shit was just too self-destructive. It was time to stop the madness. I'd spend the $5,000 on heroin. I didn't used to know about love, announced Varnish, TV preacher style. He cracked up, then stopped, going serious again. I used to think love was one thing. Can you dig that? Love was one thing, but love is not one thing. Is love one thing, Meat? Nope. Meat came up for air while Michelle's eyes rolled back like scared ponies, showing the whites before rolling forward again. Okay then, said Varnish. Meat agrees, and Meat's a smart guy. Meat knows things. He bent back over me, his breath like burning rubber, and made his mouth into a perfect O. One thing or a lot of things? Which is it, handsome? Which is love? I thought about it, decided there was no right answer, and then answered anyway. It's a lot of things? I was hoping, and hated myself for it. I was hoping to say the right thing, hoping to please him. Varnish grinned. That's right, handsome. That's very right. See, I knew you were smart. You got that high forehead. He was so near. His lips brushed mine when he talked. At some point it had grown dark. Outside the car, wherever we were, there were no stars at all, no streetlights, just the glow of the joint, the shimmer of Meat's reflector shades, the wet shine around Michelle's eyeballs. The pressure on my neck came and went. Varnish varied his grip, squeezing, then letting up. His fingers solid, not hurting exactly, squeezing, then letting up. Letting me know. You're mine now, but you like it. You like it, don't you, handsome? And that's okay. That's beautiful. Love's a lot of things. You know that. Your girlfriend knows that too. Don't you, Michelle? You know it's okay. Michelle's eyes poured into mine, and in that moment, she looked so kind, so understanding. I wanted to rip out my spleen. Sometimes it's like you know what people think, you know what they're thinking, and you know it's wrong. All you want to do is change their mind, but you can't. You can't. I knew Michelle was thinking, he likes it. Bobby likes what Varnish is doing. You can love me, Varnish murmured, with his burning breath, his hot mouth snail crawling around my lips. That's all right. Remember what I said. There's all kinds of love. Varnish, hey, I said, squirming futilely. Varnish, man, come on. It's okay, he cooed. Don't worry, like I say, ain't no such thing as preverts, as preversion. Love is love is love. JFK, right? JFK? I was trying to follow, but how? The smack, the DMT, his skin, everything so fucking wrong. You know, Varnish pressed on, like he was reminding me of something, refreshing my memory. JFK and Mickey Mantle. JFK and the Mick had these parties, real wild scenes. He whacked my head. I ain't talking out the side of my neck, man. This is known. This is fact. These guys could get anything they wanted. Chicks, chiclets, you name it. Pigs ain't gonna bust their ass. Why? Because they are heroes. This is the president. This is the Mick. But their thing was plate jobs. Can you dig it? They'd lay $1,000 on these chicks to climb onto those tables, open up their pretty cheeks, and unload. I'm talking about hot lunch, man. Can you dig it? They used to feed the ladies pâté de foie fucking gras to make it classy. Can you dig it? This is America, man. It's not about somebody's a fucking prevert. It's about the fucking pursuit of happiness. And that's okay, right? I realized he wanted me to say something, so I said, can you dig it? The USA has this uptight Aussie and Harriet Puritan bullshit, man. You have sex like fucking Lawrence Welk or you're evil. Everybody who don't make love like Billy fucking Graham is some kind of prevert. So that's what happened, man. Jack Ruby. He stopped and shook his head, panning. I wasn't sure I was hearing right. Jack Ruby? Jack Ruby had movies, man. Jack Ruby had secret movies of JFK getting plated. He got a girl inside, had her hide a camera in her snatch. A snatch cam. That's why they had to snuff him. Kennedy? No, Ruby! Varnish pounded his fist into the car seat. Aren't you listening? I am telling you things here. Ruby killed Lee Harvey because Lee Harvey fucked up his plans. Ruby was gonna blackmail Kennedy, sell the film back to him. Over and out, baby, hush and flush. But after Big John bought the farm, Ruby couldn't do it. He was patriotic, you know, a patriotic Jew. He didn't want to slander a dead president, but he was so pissed off at the bread Oswald lost him, he snuffed him. Jews, right? Then the CIA had to do him, because by now word's out in the street. He's got the movies at JFK under the table, getting plated. Shit in his face. Varnish patted my face and slapped it. Do you see it now? There is nothing that's bad between two people. Do you see that? Love comes in all flavors, as many flavors as God. What I'm telling you is I am not a prevert, man. JFK? He clapped his hands and grabbed my unit hard. You figure it out, handsome. What I do with love.
Her company represents Larry Fishburne. Her company represents Larry Fishburne. Larry Fishburne. Don't call him Larry. Don't call him Fish either. Don't call him Larry. Don't call him Fish.
Mr. Stahl, one thing, the agent adds, taking a breath as if she hates to say what she's about to say, but she really, you have to understand. She really has to. Mr. Stahl, please. If you two happen to speak, don't call him Larry. Whatever you've heard, don't call him Fish either. I have to admit, I hadn't heard the Fish thing. I hadn't heard anything. I like the guy's acting, but I haven't spent a lot of time sitting around dreaming up nicknames for him. But this woman, a complete stranger, apparently thinks I have, merely confirms something I've always thought about the movie business. Everybody in it is convinced they are the absolute center of the planet, and everybody else, losers that we are, exist with their nose pressed against the glass of their blessed and personal inner sanctum. Okay, I say, too tired at this point to make a fuss. This is how it happens. They call you up and say you've won the lottery. Then, when you start to think you've actually got the cash, they let you know they're not completely sure about it. In fact, there's a good chance the lottery's been discontinued, and anyway, most likely your number is invalid. But they'll be in touch. They'll order you up when you didn't ask for it, knock you down when you start to believe. That's always the deal. Okay, what do I call him, I ask, like I'm ever actually going to talk to him. Like this wasn't just one of those calls you occasionally get as punishment for ever having stuck your nose in the rhinestone trough that is Hollywood. Call him Lawrence, she says, with a U, like Olivier.
Don't call him Larry. Don't call him Larry. Don't call him Fish either. Don't call him Larry. Don't call him Fish either.
Lawrence, with a U, I say, like Olivier. Got it. And you're his agent? A pause. What's this? I work with his people, she says, and hangs up before I can inquire further. Even this lovely, apparently, was just working her little angle. For all I know, she's the agency masseuse. But what the hell? Why do I feel so unfulfilled? Like I've been taken on a slow ride on the up escalator, then hurled head first down the stairs. See, that's the trouble with this business. People are always offering you things, and as soon as they're mentioned, even if the idea never occurred to you before, you feel like you really want them. By the end of the conversation, whatever they're dangling before you, which you didn't know existed 3 minutes ago, has now become an absolute necessity, at which point whoever called you in the first place can feel comfortable taking it away. They've done their job. This is Hollywood's dirty little secret. It's not about making movies. Forget that shit about the Dream Factory. It's about manufacturing frustration, preening movie stars, making people out there in Dirtville feel like shit. People in offices making people who don't have offices bark like dogs, all of them generating their daily quota of hopelessness. That's the quantity in question, and the factories are always going full blast. So ends my Hollywood minute. If my kid didn't live here, I think I'd move to Peru. And there it is. Somehow, between hanging out at Madame D's and riding smacked out shotgun in my baby's dominatrix mobile, I came to a strange conclusion regarding the burg I inhabited, that there exists some slick, subterranean pool of self-loathing and toxic desire from which springs L.A.'s true inspiration. The truth, everything in this city exists as the opposite of its faux self, so that despite the hype and blather, it's not about money, it's not about fame, it's not even about entertainment, not even close. In this miniature domain of reality called Hollywood, it's about the twisted redemption of hollow visionaries looking to inform their lives with the substance that their very creations, those simulations of life called TV and movies, lack entirely. Hence the bevy of faux Farahs, or these days, faux Sharons, faux Angelinas, the mountains of action scripts written by Ivy Leaguers who've never even been bitch-slapped, the booming traffic and torture subsidized by buns-up showbiz heavies for whom rank pain is the one thing left they can feel. It all makes sense.